Hello and welcome back once again to the Inquisitor podcast with me, Marcus Cauchi. Today my guest is Keith Gillispie. Keith is founder and CEO of REI Automated. He specializes in helping people to make investments in real estate in the US, but actually he's got a very interesting background and he's particularly good at process and systems, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So without any further ado, Keith, first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. And could you give us 60 seconds on your history and background so that we can get a sense of where you're coming from?
Yeah, the short of the long is I started investing in real estate in 2016. At the time, I was active duty in the Marines. Over 8 years that I was active duty, I was overseas 13 different times. And so much of my time was spent not home. And so I needed to rely on a lot of automations, right? I needed to make my life more efficient, more effective in order to automate as much as I could and delegate anything that couldn't be automated. And so that led me to creating a second company called REI Automated. I still invest in real estate. That's my primary business. REI Automated is now a company that is education, software, and coaching for real estate investors, where we implement that automation into their real estate investing business, help them get more done. And really, it's my passion project because I want to be the person in the company that I wish I had 10 years ago when I got started.
Understood. Excellent. So tell me this. I mean, you spent a lot of time abroad. You had a life of adventure, and you were trying to run a business. What were the principles that underpinned your ability to run an effective business whilst you were serving overseas?
Well, speaking of the word principles, that was actually one of the books that I read that really fundamentally built many of the automations that we currently have in play. It's a book called Principles by Ray Dalio, who's the largest hedge fund manager that's ever existed in the world. And man, what an amazing book. And he really summed it up in literally one word: make your life principled. It's such a great book. So what are some of those principles? I carry many of those principles. I have core values like keep the most important thing, be curious, ask more empowering questions, done is better than perfect, take action in a timely manner, cut the fluff. I have these core values, but then we also have business principles. Principle number one is revenue in first position. Number two, everyone is full of crap until money hits the bank. Rule number three, never stop doing what works. Number four, never partner when you can hire, so on and so forth. So I've created these principles in my life and in my business that are principles, meaning they work everywhere all of the time. They're universally true. And how I know they're universally true is the opposite is equally true, right? Keep revenue in first position is the most important thing in the business. Well, do we know people who have unsuccessful businesses, or maybe they don't have a business anymore because they did not keep revenue in first position? Yes, of course, because they went out of business. So that's really what defines a principle, according to the author of the book, Ray Dalio. And many of those carry into our automations, because if you're going to automate something, it has to be a principle. Otherwise, if you automate something that only works some of the time, you're literally causing points of failure in your business.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, with the explosion of AI, what it does is amplify what you're already doing.
That's
So
exactly
if
right.
what you're doing is crap, basically, you're just scaling idiocy
Yep.
with volume. Um, so when you look at how people build businesses, where do they most often act against their own principles or best interests?
I think that people get caught up in this is really important, I have to do it. And they're not actually thinking, is this the most important thing? Here's what I mean by that. Do you have to have a logo? Let's not even say have to. Should you have a logo? Yes. Should you have a website? Yes. Should you have a domained email? Yes. Should you work on, your DMARC and all this crap to make sure your emails get delivered? Yes. But are those things going to drive revenue? No. In fact, they are not. It doesn't matter. Your website could say www.keithistupid.com. It doesn't matter, right? Who cares about the domain name? Don't spend more than um there's going to be periods of time where you need to focus on growth, and there's periods of time where you need to focus on health, but I don't think that it can be done simultaneously. Let me give you a bodily analogy. I just got done with a workout. You cannot build muscle like while being in a calorie deficit. it's physiologically impossible. In order to build muscle, you're going to gain weight. In order to gain weight, you have to be in a caloric surplus. Let's take this to a business analogy. You cannot be growing while maintaining a comfortable, healthy environment where everybody's like, oh yeah, everything feels good. No, when you're growing, you're breaking stuff left and right. Everybody is uncomfortable. You're going into uncharted territory. People are disagreeing and dropping balls, and people are getting yelled at. And so I think that there needs to be periods of growth, and then you're going to hit what I call a core constraint, meaning you cannot bust through this ceiling. You're going to be held back by that core constraint. At that point, you're going to be working on that core constraint. While you do, you're no longer growing. And that's when you're, stabilizing your company, or you're working on the health of your business. Once you identify your core constraint, you solve that core constraint, and it becomes your core competency. Now you go into a period of growth again. And so that's going to go up, flatline, up, flatline, up, flatline. This is how every single business in the history of ever has always grown. It's never straight up and to the right. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what I see from a sales perspective, but also from managers, is the tendency to confuse being helpful and being obsessed with consensus and avoiding the hard questions.
Oh,
And
yeah. So here's the fact of the matter. Sometimes in order to be helpful, you have to say the hard thing. I think that let's again, I believe in speaking in parables, and then creating alignment from one area that you know a lot about to maybe a new area. So let's talk about parenting, right? I've got two kids, 9 years old and 10 years old. And I believe that when I am fathering my children, a lot of the times it's not going to be very comfortable, right? Hey, come here. Can I ask you a question? I don't think that was, how my daughter should be acting. That's not the most respectful version of you. Can I ask you, why did you treat your brother that way? Get some questions. Well, what was he doing, and what did you say? And did you do anything first? How do you think that you should have done that? No, in no point in time is my daughter saying, "Oh, I love you so much, Daddy. You're the most wonderful." No, she's uncomfortable in this situation. And I'm asking hard questions, and she feels the pressure. And sometimes I can see her tears welling up, and it kind of makes me a little bit sad. But at the end of the day, it's my job to father her. Same thing is true when we're talking in the real estate space. I'm talking with homeowners, right? I'm talking with sellers. But this is true for sales regardless. I also sell my software. I sell my coaching. I sell my education. I am a salesman. Sales is nothing more than effective communication. That's it. It's not pushing something. It's not selling something truly. It's asking hard questions that makes that person realize you are the bridge that's going to get them from Hell Island to Heaven Island. And they can't get from where they are to where they want to be without buying your thing. That is effective sales, when you can get them to bridge that gap, leading the conversation through hard questions. I think hard questions are the only way. There's a book called Obstacle is the Way, and that's kind of coming to mind right now.
in terms of building a business, how do we build a business that isn't dependent on the founder being everywhere, doing everything? You've clearly managed to master this, so I'd be very curious about your what sparked it initially
Man,
in terms of your thinking, and then how you developed it.
there's a phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. Tony Robbins says, oftentimes we are not missing the resources, we're missing the resourcefulness. And so for me, dude, I wasn't freaking home. I was never, and I couldn't do anything about it, right? Marine Corps says, you're going to go to China. Great. Yes, sir. Next thing I know, I'm getting off a plane in China. Now you're in Japan. Now you're in Guadalcanal. Now you're in Tarawa. Now you're in American Samoa. Now you're in Canada. Now you're in Europe, whatever. I just go wherever I'm told, right? However, for me on a personal level, this is when my kids were 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 4 and 5, and they were missing. I was missing out on some of the most fundamental times of their life as a father to turn them into the people that they're meant to be. And so that broke my heart, because I'm coming home and my wife is having to reintroduce my children to me for the fourth or the fifth or the sixth or the seventh or the eighth time. And so I can't stay in the Marines. I had a wonderful time. I had the most amazing career, and I will not say anything bad about the Marine Corps, but it was only good for a season. I was in for 8 years, and I had to get out. I needed to come home and father my children and be a husband to my wife. I was always gone. And so I didn't have a choice. I needed to build this business. I needed to get out of the Marines and come home to my family. And so that was my necessity. And that's what bred this ingenuity. And so really what it comes down to is, what am I doing that is a low value task? And what do I mean by that? There's this amazing little chart that one of my mentors gave me a long time ago, probably 7 or 8, maybe even 9 years ago. And he said there's $10 tasks, There's $100 tasks, there's $1,000 tasks, there's $10,000 tasks. Let's talk about a $10,000 task. This is something that you will never, ever, 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 ever outsource to anybody because you physically can't. It is all things to do with your heart, your mind, your soul, and your body. So this is like doing a workout. This is like going on a date with your wife. This is like going to a doctor's appointment, whatever. Like these are things that we have to do in order to take care of us. It will never be outsourced. Now let's flip it to the opposite side. $10 per hour task. What's a $10 per hour task? Monitoring your email, responding to things, paying bills, even simple basic things around your house, like taking out the trash, doing the dishes, cleaning your house, laundry, so on and so forth. In your business, whatever that is for you, that for me, it was like the marketing needs to be outsourced. Cool. Now that that's outsourced, now the lead management needs to be outsourced. Now that that's outsourced, let's do the follow-up next. Now that that's outsourced, let's do the acquisition, or actually it was transaction coordination came first, and then the acquisition. And so how do you do that? Well, it's simple. You do the task. And every time you do the task, the first time you do it, you write an SOP. Then you follow that SOP to the T, exactly how you wrote it the second time. And you go, you freaking buffoon, you missed out on like 50% of the stuff. This SOP sucks, right? So then you're going to like fill in the gaps, all the things that you missed the first time. And then you do it a third time. And you still realize, I have still missed like 30%. Let me fill this in. Or now you start getting into the nuances, like this, we call them edge cases. This weird case that only happens 10% of the time. I'm going to fill that in. And so you follow your own SOP. You do that task following the SOP minimum 3 times, probably 5 times. If you suck at it in the beginning, you're going to suck at it probably 7 or 10 times. Now that SOP is great. So you follow the SOP, and as you're following the SOP, you record a video doing it and explaining what you're doing, why we're doing it this way, showing how you're doing it and in what order. That video, along with the actual written SOP, now goes into a training log that's only one task. Do that to every task in a seat, and then hire out that seat. Write a job description, post it online, hire somebody to do that. Or maybe even better yet, we have 24 agentic AIs. And actually, I think that we just got 6 more. So we might be up to 30. So these are agentic, meaning they actually do stuff for you. It's not like let me go into ChatGPT and ask this question and then it returns the question. No. It is following an SOP exactly how we wrote it, and it's going out and doing things for us. So we have 24 to 30 of these things. And this is super cheap, by the way. This costs me about $900 per month to have 24 agentic AIs doing work for me 24/7. Here's the cool thing. It's going to follow the SOP to the T. And you're going to know really quick, fast, and in a hurry whether or not your SOP is any good. And so you refine that SOP, and it's called the self-healing process. It learns better ways of doing it, and then it recreates the SOP a little bit better. You have a manual review, approve, deny, change, whatever. And then once it's passed, now it has version 2 of that SOP. And that's really the best way to scale your business, is create SOPs as you're doing your tasks.
And I think your point is exceptionally well made, that you need to test it until it breaks. And before you automate anything, make sure that you're not scaling a bad system. At the moment, my inbox has been so flooded and diluted with noise. And one of the SOPs I wish business owners would have focused on is doing fundamental research. The amount of poorly timed, irrelevant, low value or no value interruption.
Yes.
And frankly, we have no right to waste other people's time like that.
Right.
But if you're hiring somebody, setting them up to succeed is critical. The single highest hidden cost in any organization that I've ever come across is wrong hires. And if you hire badly, then shame on you.
Yep.
If you hire well, but then you set someone up to fail, double shame on you.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so are there any parts of the business that they should hire for before they automate?
I don't see it as a step 1, step 2, step 3, meaning you do it and then you hire somebody to do it and then you automate it. I think that so there's a great book. It's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's written by Stephen Covey, one of my favorite books of all time. One of those 7 habits is begin with the end in mind. And so rather than doing step 1, step 2, step 3, where step 1 is I'm doing it, step 2 is now you're doing it, step 3 is we automate it. I don't think that we should do that. I think that we should begin with the end in mind and ask ourselves, is this something that a person should be doing, or is this something that an automation should be doing? And if an automation should be doing it, then it's going to go step 1 is I'm doing it, step 2 is AI is doing it. Or if it's something that a person should be doing, then step 1 is I do it, and then step 2 is now you do it. The process is identical, by the way. You're still creating the same SOP, the same principles, the same do this and here's why, and don't do this and here's why. The same, for lack of a better term, left and right lateral limits. And that's a Marine Corps term. When you go out to the shooting range and you have your targets, you're not allowed to shoot past the left because there's houses over there, and you're not allowed to shoot, past the right because there's a highway over there. So you have your left and right lateral limit. The same thing is true with every SOP, every task, everything should have that, regardless of if you're passing it off to AI or you're passing it off to a human. The process of systemizing it and creating an SOP is absolutely identical.
And is there anything that they should never automate in the business?
Yes. I think that there's a ton of things that you should never automate in the business. Case in point, the negotiation when you're buying houses. Here's my disclaimer. I own a software company that has agentic AI voice agents that makes and takes calls with sellers. Okay, so it is monetarily in my best interest for people to use my AI. However, here's what I'll tell you. My AI will not negotiate with a seller because I tried it myself. I sell houses all the time. So I said, shoot, I've got a house that I'm selling right now. It's in Louisiana. Let me feel what it's like to talk to my AI about my own house. And so we have a script. It's a 6-part script where I get general information about the house, then I get condition of the house, and I get the time frame, then I get the mortgage, then I get how much your walk away, how much do you need to walk away from the house, and then if there's any sort of creative financing that we can do. It's a 6-part triage call. We do the same thing every single time. Well, as soon as we got down to part number 5, which is how much do I need to walk away, that's the negotiation portion. Where, Marcus, thanks so much for telling me about this house. This sounds like something that we buy fairly often. Here's what the process looks like. And then we kind of go into a 30 to 60 second spiel on what the process looks like. Then we ask them, how much do you need to walk away with? Like, this is your check as you're walking away from the closing table. How much do you need? And then the next question, regardless of what they say, let's say you say $50,000. I don't care if you said $500. Ooh, $500. Is that the least that you would take? And then maybe they come down, $400. Oh, $400. Well, I'm buying it as is. There's no repairs or updates that's needed. Is that the lowest you would go? And let's say they come down to $350. It doesn't matter. We ask 3 questions in order to get that down. I'm here to tell you, when I experienced that talking with an AI, it felt icky. I didn't like it. It made me feel weird inside that this stupid robot was beating me up over the price. It doesn't know any freaking better, Like,
Yep.
Shut up, you dummy. I don't even understand why you're negotiating with me. I already told you my price. Anyway, so I took that out. That's one thing that should not be automated. Let's talk about the sale itself. Again, I sell coaching and software at REI Automated. I will never outsource the sales. Let me pull that back. I will not automate through AI the process of sales. It's always going to be a human, me or my sales team. So I will delegate to my sales team, but I will not automate to AI. That process, at least right now, AI is not good enough in, June, July of 2026. I'll go on record saying it is not good enough to say, yeah, this is a pleasant experience to outsource this to AI and have this conversation with AI. I definitely think that there's some things that you should not be automating.
A pal of mine was talking to a funeral directors because his mother passed, and it turned out that they were using AI as the sales agent. And up to a point, it worked really nicely. But like you said, they got to the point where the difficult conversation needed to be had, and it fell apart.
Yes.
And you have to wonder at what point does empathy and reading the moment and understanding the situation your customer is in come into play.
That's exactly right. When we're talking, here's what I think is the universal truth, at least right now, is when we're dealing with information, AI is fine. When we're dealing with emotion, that needs a human touch.
Interesting take. I'll ponder that, then we may come back to it in a minute, but
Cool.
I tend to agree. So in terms of hiring, we've already touched on that wrong hires are exceptionally costly.
Yeah.
And there's also a ripple effect that a wrong hire has. And not only do you do the business a disservice, but you also do all of their colleagues a disservice.
Yes.
So I'm curious about how you go about selecting people, because I think, in my experience, the majority of people cut and paste the job description of the person who they either fired or left and wasn't successful, and then they go and hire someone pretty much exactly the same. So I'm curious what your SOPs are around hiring.
I have a brutal hiring process. This is in typical Keith fashion. This has been systemized, written SOPs, recorded videos explaining the SOPs, and then I've created a course for it that every single person in my organization, both of them, Crown and REI, follow. And I teach actually to all of my private clients within REI Automated so that they can hire their own lead manager, dispo manager, acquisition manager, transaction coordinator, project manager, whatever job title they are. This works really, really, really well. What I will tell you is it's also really, really, really hard because we are filtering typically 100 to 1, meaning if I have 700 people apply for my job position, I will interview 7. Out of those 7, I'm always going to hire at least 2, at the maximum 4, typically 3. I love hiring 2s and 3s. The most I've ever hired is 4, and it's stupid to go above 4. Hiring 5 people is just ridiculous, unless you are massively scaling and there's truly enough meat on the bone for all 4 of those people to make it. Otherwise, there's just not enough volume for them to learn and grow and determine whether or not this is going to be a good fit for them.
And you don't have the bandwidth to onboard them.
Yeah, it's not the onboarding for me. It's because our onboarding has been automated and our training has been automated. What becomes difficult is holding them accountable. I'm actually in the process of automating that with AI because we're using their daily end of day reports and their weekly end of week reports. They submit that via a Google form. It goes into a Google sheet, and then Claude goes in every single day and every single week, reads what they did today, what they said that they were going to do yesterday, today, and what they said they're going to do tomorrow. It's going to go back and hold them accountable to this thing. It's going to find out what their blockers were, like, hey, I couldn't do this because this was broken or because we were banned on Facebook or whatever. And then it's going to research and it's going to find solutions for that. But it's also, man, I'm here to tell you, this has been life-changing for me personally because I suck at holding people accountable. I'm not a very patient person, and I'm also not politically correct. I'll straight up tell them, your performance this week has sucked. It's the worst it's ever been. I have fired people for less than this. You need to step up to the role and responsibilities that I hired you to do, or you need to step out of my company so I can replace you with somebody better. Now, let's talk for the next 30 minutes about properly diagnosing what's holding you back, and then we'll discuss for the next 30 minutes what is the proper plan of action in order to get you above the line. Here's the bar, you're down here, we want you above the bar. We want you doing better than the bare minimum standard. So let's define the bar, find your blockers, clearly define the actual root cause that's holding you back. And then we create a PIP. It's called a performance improvement plan in order to get you above the bar. And then I'm going to hold you accountable for the next week, maybe 2. And then if you're not above the bar after 2 weeks, I'm sorry, I don't have time to freaking sit here and baby you. I'm hiring the next person.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you on this because I have a view.
Do
I
it.
think everybody should be on a personal improvement plan from the first day of being hired. And the idea that we have to put someone on a performance improvement plan is indicative that management has let something slide or hasn't been paying enough attention to their daily coaching responsibilities. So I'm curious how you'd respond to that,
Yeah.
first of all, and what you're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to coach your direct reports or to have your managers coach theirs.
Cool. I'll go in that order. What's my response? And then what I'm doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah.
I disagree with you. I don't think that everybody needs to be on a performance improvement plan because if you have higher.
Personal improvement plan from day
Oh,
one.
okay. Okay. All right. All right. I agree with the personal improvement plan. That's not how I define a PIP. A PIP is a performance. Like at the end of the day, I don't freaking care how hard you tried. I don't care what you did. I don't care how many hours you worked. I care about your results. If you tried so hard and you have the best intent and you're really going after it, like, sorry, if you suck, if you're not getting the freaking results, then that's what feeds the business. So performance is uh, the metric in which I measure. And so I have one person on the team that I'm here to tell you his bar is higher than mine. His expectations are higher than mine. And I look up to him a lot because I'm consistently pulling 12-hour days, and so is he. But he gets more done in his 12-hour days. He's more effective. He's more efficient. He has a higher standard in almost everything that he does, and I love him dearly for that. And I pay him well as well to stay. And so he's not on a performance improvement plan or a personal improvement plan, because I believe that as much as I would want him to continue growing, well, he's at a level that's higher than me. He actually, we believe in 360-degree leadership in my company. So even though, I am his boss and money is flowing from me to him and direction is flowing from me to him, he still leads me. He still holds me accountable. He still says, Keith, you're not holding up to your end of the deal. You said that you were going to get this done last week. It's still not done. Stop being a bottleneck. You're slowing me down. Get off your ass and get that thing done. I don't care if you have to wake up early, go to bed late, work over a weekend. You need to get this stuff done, because you're the blocker for this project that you've been pushing me, to do. And he will just give it straight to me. And I love that. So I don't have him on a personal improvement plan. He's on his own personal improvement plan. He doesn't need to be micromanaged. And he is at a level higher than me, and I love that. Now, for everybody else on the business, which is 12 other people, I have 13 employees. He's one that's higher than me. 12 are not to the level that I am. All of them are on a personal improvement plan. And so what does it look like now? We'll switch over to your second question, the latter half, which is what are we doing daily, weekly, and monthly? Well, we do daily, weekly, and quarterly. I don't do anything month over month. It's just daily, weekly, and quarterly. This comes from the book by Gino Wickman called Traction. And he wrote an amazing book where he talks about EOS, which stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. I follow it to a T. I have for the last 6 or 7 years. And so what that looks like is every single person, they've got some numbers, right? Like these are our KPIs, our key performance indicators that we're tracking. And basically, like, here's the benchmark, here's what our past performance has been, here's our goal, and are we on track or off track to hit those targets? And people have to, every single day when they're done with work, before they punch out, they have to submit their end of day report. And it's just a short form. It typically takes 5 minutes for somebody to fill this out from beginning to end, where they talk about what they've done, what they accomplished, what hurdles or obstacles or blockers they've had, and just basically give me, hey, here's your finger on the pulse, Keith, for what I did and how I'm doing and where we are in terms of our goals. They do that on a daily and a weekly basis. So I want them to reflect every single Friday on the whole week. Did I accomplish the mission this week? We're very mission mindset, results driven here in REI Automated. And so I want them to reflect. If we don't reflect, then how are we ever going to learn? How are we going to grow if we're not actually taking some time to introspectively look at my performance this week? And so they write their end of week reports, and I read that. Claude, our AI that we use, reads that, and I provide feedback daily on their end of day reports. I provide them feedback weekly on their end of week reports, and I hold them accountable quarterly to their quarterly rocks, which are their goals over that 90-day sprint. Additionally, I have you know what? I do something monthly. I do one-on-ones with every person monthly. Every teammate, so this equates to 3 meetings per week for me, because I have 13 different team members, and I like to get through all of them in the month. So it's about 3 meetings per week that are one-on-ones with each of our team members. We also have weekly all hands departmental meetings. So for example, we have a sales and marketing meeting, we have a client care and fulfillment meeting, we have a financial and admin meeting, and then we have a development meeting. Each one of these is a weekly departmental meeting, and that's really, really helpful for me to put my finger on, well, here's where we were last week, here's where we are this week, this is the plan for next week. It gets everybody on the same page. We bring up issues, we identify the root cause, we discuss the solution, and then we put that solution in place forevermore. Those are the things that we do, and I think that you should run your business weekly. I see a lot of entrepreneurs make this mistake where they're running their business monthly. They're looking at their P&L monthly. No, this is dumb. This is the wrong way to do it. You need to know what week we are in and be looking at last week's trailing metrics. This gives you 50 opportunities of course correction. I know that there's 52 weeks in a year. We're always going to take 2 weeks off. So 50 opportunities of course correction rather than 12 opportunities of course correction every month. That is massive. That is a massive difference that will only help you. And it's hard to keep yourself accountable to it, but as soon as the system's in place, everybody's following it, this will help you scale your business much faster.
When we spoke in the planning call, you said something which really resonated with me when I asked you what is a frequently unasked question. And you came back and said, well, what can I automate this week? or something along those lines.
Yep.
And what will save me an hour.
Yep.
And I'd like to explore that thinking
Cool.
because I think so many founders and salespeople suffer from blind spots because their level of abstraction is based on what they've done in the past and what they know,
Yeah.
rather than asking better questions. So, what are the better questions that people don't ask themselves that they really should be asking that you've learned to ask that help you keep moving forward and growing positively in that step change?
Yeah. One of those, well, that automation thing has been really key for us this year and last year. We put this in place several months ago with every single person, and they're held accountable in their end of week report. They have to put in what is the SOP that I created this week that I will automate next week. And then they have to put a link to the SOP. And we actually go and we look at that link. We keep all of our SOPs in one spot. And so this is almost like their personal improvement plan that you were talking about earlier, Marcus, is how do we as a business owner free ourselves up from time so that we can do some higher level, higher dollar per hour or dollar for our value tasks? Well, we create a system around it and then we automate it or we delegate it. So once we pass that down to another person, here's the truth of the matter is you pass them one SOP for one task. And you may pass them, 5 or 10 different SOPs for 5 or 10 different tasks, but then things are going to expand. They're going to get a little bit more robust. They're going to get a little bit bigger and better, and they're going to need to add more SOPs for all these supplemental things that you're going to be tasking them with around their existing work. Those need to be written down. And in order for them, your team members or your employees, to be doing higher value and higher dollar per hour tasks, they need to be freed up in time. Most people cannot consistently work 12 hours per day, every day.
Well, what I find fascinating is in all the studies, you're lucky to get anywhere between 15 to 30% of highly productive time out of
Yep.
your employees,
Yep.
which seems to me to be a shameful waste because no one comes to work to be unproductive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people might, but by and large, if you've hired well, they don't. And it feels like quite often people get stuck in a rut. And my favorite definition of a rut is a coffin with both ends kicked out. And so what I see is too often people don't rewrite their own job descriptions to show how they've evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of what you're talking about today creates that as part of the daily, weekly activity. But having those moments of reflection, maybe once every 90 days, to rewrite your job description in order to see how the role has evolved and how
Yeah.
the interdependencies have evolved
Yeah.
is really powerful. So I'm curious whether or not that's something that you do at the moment or you plan to do.
We do something sort of similar. We don't do it on a monthly or quarterly basis. We do it on an annual basis. It's actually sort of built into that book Traction, the EOS Entrepreneur Operating System. That model, there's self-reflection documents that Gino has you fill out, like delegate and automate is one of them. Another one is GWC, get it, want it, have the capacity for it. And so one of those, things that I do with every single person is, do you get it? Like your job. Do you get your job? Do you understand your job? Do you want it? Do you show that you're, consistently doing it and you're consistently getting, getting better, you're developing? And then C is capacity. Do you have the capacity for it? Well, if you're consistently falling down and dropping the ball and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, then maybe you get it, maybe you want it, but you don't have the capacity for it. Take it away, give it to somebody else, or create a system to automate it and or delegate it. And so so some of those, like the delegate task, what are some of the things that we're doing? And then Gino has you put them into 4 quadrants. Do I like it? Do I dislike it? Am I good at it, or do I suck at it? And you write all your huge list. Everyone will take 5 to 10 minutes to write down everything that they've done this quarter. They go back, they look through their planner, their calendar, their notes. They write down every single task that they've done. And you write it in one of those 4 quadrants. Am I good at it or not good at it? Well, I'm not good at it. Okay. Well, is this something that I want to do or something that I don't want to do? Because maybe there's some things that I want to do this thing, but I'm just not any good at it. Well, let's get a course. Let's get a mentor. Let's hire a consultant in that case in order to do this. Or if I'm not good at it and I don't want to learn how to do it, we need to pass this off immediately. Otherwise, it's not going to get done. And so in doing that, you're rewriting your job description. the tasks, the responsibilities that you're in charge of are going to potentially get passed off to a better fitting team member.
If we're operating through systems, and don't get me wrong, I'm an absolute manic fan of systems, but I think often we need to create space for people to think creatively. How do you build that into your business?
Oh, by forcing it.
You will be creative.
Yeah. So you can systemize that creativity. How do we do that? Through self-reflection. Every single week, at the end of the week, what's one thing that you did this week that you can systemize, create an SOP, automate, or delegate next week? What's the thing that you're going to commit to doing? And so then they sit there because they have about 30 minutes to fill out their end of week, and they have about 5 to 10 minutes to fill out their end of day, right? So they have 30 minutes where they get to sit. They look through their calendar, they look through their notes, they look through their messages, they think about the tasks that they've accomplished. They can go back and review each of their end of days for the last week, and they can identify, whoa, what if, Marcus, my life would be so much better if I didn't have to do this one thing. Like, I hate doing this one thing. Maybe I can talk to Claude about doing this for me. Yeah, what would that look like? And then maybe they have a quick conversation with AI, and they go and they create a project, and they dump a whole bunch of documents in it of, this is what I've been doing. Like, here's some examples. Here's the Word doc. Here's the transcript of this call. Here's the SOP that I already follow from Keith, or whatever it is. And then they create a project in Claude, and then Claude is their thought partner on this. They go back and forth. Claude, give me some ideas on how I could further systemize this and potentially have a AI agent do this for me. What's the process? Because these things, they require some framework. Like, Claude can't just magically do whatever the heck you want it to do. You have to organize it, meaning, Marcus, you have to put your YouTube videos from your podcast. You got to download it from, we use Riverside. You have to download the video from Riverside and put it into this Google Drive folder. And then I'm going to pull from that Google Drive folder. I'm going to throw it into this website. I'm going to get the transcript and then pass it off to this agent. And then this agent's going to take the transcript, parse it out, find the things that are going to be really good on social media. This is something that I actually did systemize last week. And so now we have an agent that will log into my Riverside, find the podcast episodes that have been done in last week. So we had 3 last week. It found all 3 of them. Download. Where do the downloads go? Into the download folder on my computer, which it has access to, which then it can right-click, move, and then it moves it to the specific Google Drive folder. Now, the other AI agent pulls it from the Google Drive folder, which, by the way, anybody can have access to the Google Drive folder, whereas on my local computer, only my one co-work agent can have access to, right? And from then, it's just this series. It's just a process that gets passed from one agent to another agent to another agent, just like people, how this one only has certain left and right lateral limits. And then it's like a baton. If you've ever seen like an Olympic 1-mile race where
Relay
there's
race.
four contestants, yeah, and they're passing that baton over to the next person. This is exactly what these agents do. Passes it from this one, and this one's right lateral limit is this one's left lateral limit. It picks up the baton and takes it to here, who passes it off to this agent, so on and so forth. And so they think through that model as they're having Claude as their thought partner, and then they spend time the next week creating the SOPs and automating and delegating this to AI. So we actually have systemized that creativity for our team members.
Outstanding. My question here is, can you spot when someone is just going through the motions and being performative in that process from their reports?
Yes, because Claude is reflecting on their end of week reports. It sees what they had planned to do the week prior. It's already logged that. So then it sees the result of their commitment. It goes in, it clicks into the SOP, it opens up the SOP, and it points out these fatal flaws. You didn't think about this, you forgot about this wasn't descriptive enough, so on and so forth. And it drafts a message in Slack to that team member and says, hey, this is coming from me, by the way. And my team members don't even know that this isn't me, that this is Claude. Okay? This has been fully automated. It drafts the message as me saying, hey, I checked out this SOP. Thank you so much. You did really, really wonderful. I do want to give you some feedback. I noticed that you missed this, that, and the other thing. Here's a couple of suggestions. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to tell you that it needs to be better. And then they're in charge of figuring out what that looks like. How does it look like? And one of the things that Claude also does is it challenges their SOP. Like, hey, is that really the thing that you need to be systemizing? Because maybe there's higher level tasks that need to be systemized. And so it'll challenge. And I'm not here to tell you that Claude is always right. But what I am here to tell you is Claude will challenge them, and they have to respond to that challenge. meaning it has a problem with it. Kind of how you were like, hey, Keith, I want to challenge that thought process. And then I came back with, well, here's my justification for why I said what I said. They need to do the same thing.
And do you review those messages before they go out?
Yes, they're drafted out, but not sent. So every morning I come in here 6:30 to 7:30. I probably have about 50 to 70 messages drafted up, sent through. There's a bunch of messages that get drafted out. And so I'll read them. Most of the time, man, I'm here to tell you, I just send, send, send. I'm blown away with how good. I'm like, that's 3 times as good as what I would have written. Send. And so I spend no more time than to read it and approve it. I think that this is how every business owner, especially CEOs, need to be. Think of any CEO ever on any Inc. 500 level, the top 500 on the S&P. Let's look at all of those CEOs. Are they doing anything but approving? They don't tell anybody to do anything. They're not creating anything. They don't do anything but approve and uphold standards. It's their job to say, here's the vision. Go get me that. We need to do this thing here because that's where the opportunity is. That's where the money is. This is where the market is going. We're listening to what the marketplace says, and this is how we respond. That's the CEO's job. And from there on out, after he's indicated, here's where we're going, now it's on the people to determine how we're going to get there. And his job to determine whether or not this is in alignment with the business owner, because typically the CEO is not the business owner in Inc. 500 companies. The CEO is not the business owner. Is this in alignment with the commander-in-chief, if we're going to take a militaristic lifestyle here? Is this in alignment with the commanders-in-chief intent? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here to follow.
What are the signs that the business can run without you, but isn't safe without you? I've got this 6-month founder absence test. Could it run smoothly and grow and be better if you weren't there?
Man, I don't know that I have figured that out. I think that my business could sustain. I do not think that it would get better. I think that I have the right people in place to sustain our current growth. Case in point, I leave for 1 week out of every month. And during that week, I do nothing. Last week, I was in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. I mean, not last week. Last month, I was in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee for 6 days. And next week, I'm going on a trip to Nashville. And I'll be gone for a week. And during that time, nobody's going to call me. Nobody's going to text me. Nobody's going to Slack me. Nobody's going to Facebook message me. My WhatsApps are going to be clean. I'm not reviewing anything. I recently moved. And moving is logistically a nightmare, especially when you have a wife, 2 children, and way too much stuff. And so it took about a month for things to really settle down. From the time that we started to the time that we ended, it was almost exactly a month. Our business was within $1,000 of the revenue that it was the month before, which was within $1,000 of the revenue that we were the month before. It's very, very stable. It's stable going up, by the way. $1,000 and $1,000 more than $1,000 more. It's very slow growth while I'm not very present over the last couple of months, admittedly. Now that things are settling down, next month, the month of July, people feel when I'm back, it lights a fire under their ass a little bit, that their feet are getting held to the flame.
Okay, next question. We're coming to time now, so I'll be sparing.
Okay.
Where do founders confuse freedom and delegation with abdication?
Well, I don't think that they confuse ever. I think that you don't even know that you're setting somebody up for failure. This is just a maturity in your business ownership, and maybe not even business ownership. This is seen in corporate America, frankly, where it's just leadership. Let's just talk about the difference between leadership and management. Management, you're passing. This is my definition of leadership, by the way. In the Marine Corps, think about this. If I'm a staff sergeant up here and I'm telling a sergeant to do something, I outrank them. So he has to follow. Like, there's a law that you have instant and willing obedience to all lawful orders. So I outrank you. I'm telling you to do something. You can't be dismissive of it or say, I don't want to. As long as that's a lawful order, you must have instant and willing obedience. This is a law in the Marines. So I don't want, in my businesses, I don't want people to follow my direction because I outrank them, because I own the business, because I pay them. I don't want that to be the reason why they're following my direction. I want them to follow my direction because, number one, they believe that I have their best interests in mind, and number two, I'm guiding them the right way. That is, I'm respecting you I'm honoring, not I'm honoring. I'm honoring your position is different than I respect your authority. What you say means something. You're not just telling me to do something because you can. That to me is the difference. And so similarly, if I tell somebody to do something that I have not taken the time to give you the knowledge or the tools and resources, or even the mentor or the course or the I don't even, sometimes, man, I give people tasks and I don't have an SOP. I straight up say, I do not have time to build this SOP. I'm sorry. Please do some research, watch some YouTube videos, talk to Claude, have it do some research, build the SOP yourself. And this is actually, I'm doing this a lot more. I'm doing this a lot more than I used to because there's no excuse. Now, with AI, as advanced as it is, Claude can go off and do deep research for 15 to 30 minutes. Go look, it does have to deal with your prompting, but it can go look at other people in your industry or even people not in your industry with way bigger businesses from you, come down to really core, tried and true principles that you can implement in your own business. And Claude, if it knows enough about you, it has this huge context. For us, our business, we have a corpus. It knows everything about our business. So it's able to pull in context clues from what we do and like perfectly map, well, here's this other business. Here's this landscaping business. They're crushing it. How is this landscaping business or this roofing business or this solar business on the Inc. 500 list? I don't know if they're actually on the Inc. 500 list, but like they're a publicly traded company. They're crushing it. They're on the top 500 growing businesses in America, whatever it is. Now, here's how we're going to apply this to Crown Properties or REI Automated because it knows how to do that. Boom. Now, my virtual assistant that gets paid $4 per hour has created a banger SOP, which she then goes and implements. She finds the weaknesses. She goes back to Claude and say, you missed this, that, the other thing. We went in the wrong direction here, and this totally sucked. And then Claude will go back and it'll make its own SOP. So this is, I think that this is acceptable now because I didn't give her the SOP, but I gave her the means, Claude. I gave her the resource in which to create the SOP. And now that SOP can be followed, and once executed, that task can be complete to a very, very high level.
You've repeatedly talked about using AI as a thought partner, which again, I 100% support. I'm curious, how do you teach your people to do that? Because the majority of people use AI abysmally, and they're normally using it to knock out an email, to automate a process, but they don't really give it the thought and they don't put the time in. So I'm curious what you're doing to coach and train your people to use AI well.
I think there's a couple of things that I do. You have to hire right? You have to hire somebody who has some critical thinking skills, who has some zeal, some grit, some I don't stop in the face of adversity. I'm gonna freaking figure it out type of mentality. So I think that helps me quite a bit because I can just say, hey, go figure it out. And they're not gonna be, oh, I need some help. No, I don't hire people that are like that. I think that that's part of it. A second part of it is we're talking constantly. Let me pull up my Slack. 68 messages today so far, and it's noon. We are talking constantly, and many of these conversations are regarding AI, systemization. We pass ideas back to each other. We talk in communal chats often. I think this is another principle that we should be applying, especially when you get more than like 2 or 3 people. No DMs. There's no reason for DMs. If you're sending me a DM, unless it is actually private, personal information that shouldn't be shared with other people, you're wrong. Everything needs to be put in a public forum where there's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 eyes. Like our marketing team, fairly large. There's me, Ryan, Dayton, George, Channing, Nimra. I think I got all of them. So there's 6 people just doing the marketing. So when we have an idea on a marketing thing, we put it in the marketing channel. Then if I'm dumb and I haven't thought of something, somebody else is going to chime in and say, hey, maybe you thought about this, maybe you didn't, but they're going to lovingly and respectfully say, you didn't think about this. Let's throw this in, right? So we're refining each other. Iron sharpens iron. We talk about it often, both in our chats as well as in our weekly departmental meetings. So I think that those 3 things, my first response in my head, Marcus, when you asked, how do you do this? Well, it was kind of like my previous response. I just forced them to do it. It's like, hey, we're going to use AI. The more you use AI, Alex Hormozi teaches this parable where he said there's 2 groups of people. And I don't know if it's actually a real thing, if it was actually done or not. I don't really care either. There's these 2 groups of people, and they were in charge of making the best pots ever. That was the challenge. They had 1 year to make the most amazing, perfect pot. They were separated into 2 groups. One of them was focused on quality. One of them was focused in quantity. So here's what happened. The quality people started doing all of this research on what's the best compound for the mud or the clay, what's the best heat, what's the best process of spinning, how many revolutions per minute, what do I need to put on my hands, is it oil or powder, what's the best form for this pot that I'm creating so it to be strong and durable and it doesn't crack when I drop it. So they started doing all this research. And then the other group of people was tasked with quantity. Let's bust out 100 per day for a year straight. At the end of the 1 year, their pots were tested. The people who pushed out quantity actually had a higher quality product because they learned through the test of time, trial, and failure what works and doesn't work. And that ingenuity made a better product than the people who studied and researched and scienced their way to a crappy product with very low throughputs. And so me just forcing them to use AI, like one of my gals, English, not her thing. She can barely speak English on our calls. Yeah, I mean, I'm here to tell you it's rough. And she was a little bit embarrassed, and then we heckle her a little bit, and now it's fun, and everybody has a smile. But the reason why I hired her is because English is her 5th language. She's obviously very smart. She's obviously good at learning how to do new things. So if I can teach her to speak the language of AI, oh my goodness sakes, she's unstoppable. She's so good. She's so good at what she does. And what I do is I say, we need to put as many pots on the table as possible. And we focus on throughput. The quality will come as we go through the process, as we learn, grow, experience, learn, reflect. That's all part of the process. And a lot of grace is given. When somebody screws up, I don't beat them up because they messed up. Failure is a good thing, as long as you do not quit.
Well, I think if you punish failure, people won't take risks.
Mm-hmm.
And we want people to take risks. We want people to push boundaries. And one of my favorite maxims is always run to the sound of gunfire. Go looking for evidence that you're wrong. Go looking for people who can prove you wrong.
Yep.
And in terms of hiring, hire people whose strengths make your weaknesses irrelevant.
Yes.
It just strikes me that so often ego is the enemy. We have to learn to break our attachment to being right. And we need to encourage people to dissent. And the fact that you encourage your people to challenge you is a huge plus.
Yes.
Because too often I see leaders who are there because of tenure instead of because they're great leaders.
Yeah.
And I remember working on a project not long ago where the ego of the leader prevented the business from growing, and people were afraid to put their head above the parapet. So
Yeah.
they ended up underperforming. It affected their revenues, it affected their retention, it affected their churn, and all of these things has come back to a leader having the humility to recognize what they cannot do,
Yeah.
and also to identify the stuff that they should not do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever read Essentialism by Greg McKeown.
Mm-mm.
You'll love that.
Okay.
Essentially, the whole essence of the book is how do I do less but better on purpose over time and mean it? And the first question I always like to lead with is, well, what can we stop doing?
Yeah.
What no
Yeah.
longer has its place? And every 90 days, we should be looking at our processes and ask, what can we stop doing? What can we do less of? What can
Yes.
we start doing? What can we do more of? And what do we need to do differently? And those 5 questions are a fantastic resource in order to help you become more effective before you faff around trying to become more efficient at being bad at stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I very much agree. And Tony Robbins teaches us the same thing, that we first must create the vacuum. What he means by that is pull this thing out, right? If you want to stop smoking, well, you can't just say, well, I'm going to do this instead. You first must stop the smoking. If you want to stop being fat, then you need to don't go shopping for this thing. Eliminate this thing from your diet and replace it with this thing. You always have to take away before you can add. Otherwise, if you just keep on adding, you're going to reach a state of overwhelm. And what creates overwhelm? My definition of overwhelm is not knowing what I'm supposed to do next, because there's too many options, or the opposite. I feel like I'm backed into a corner and I don't know what my option is. Typically, it's I have too many options and I don't know which one to choose.
Keith, we've come to time. This has been exceptionally interesting and very instructive. If you had a golden ticket and you could go back and whisper in the ear of the idiot Keith, age 23, what one bit of advice would you give him that he'd have undoubtedly have ignored?
Hmm. It's the one that I that I was talking about earlier. I was really talking about myself when I said that a lot of people fail to keep revenue in first position. And my businesses, both of them, have had a season of suffering because I was not focused on revenue. Revenue is what drives businesses. Your business will not succeed.
Revenue or profit?
Well, profit is a function of revenue, so revenue must come first. So truly, profit is the thing that drives business. However, because revenue is what drives profit, profit is two factors or two functions, which is how much revenue am I bringing in and how much expenses are going out. This is going to be opposite of what most people are going to think, but you first should lower your expenses. At least this is true for America. I don't know about y'all, but we are systemically, we spend way too much freaking money. Everybody is in debt. It's terrible. I hate it. We are consumerisms in America. And so let's limit our expenses. Essentialism, that book, I haven't read it yet. However, I am really big on essentialism. What can we take off? What are we spending money on that we do not actually need? So step one, limit our expenses. Step two, we have to get some revenue into this business. So before you even start the business, let's look at our personal expenses and say, what can I take off the table? What am I willing to sacrifice? Because you are going to have to sacrifice when you start your business, both time and money. What am I willing to sacrifice? Take expenses down. Why? So that I can weather the storm. And then we need to focus on driving revenue. And I was the one, shiny object syndrome. Man, I was totally fine spending money on courses, seminars, webinars, apprenticeships, masterminds, whatever, you freaking name it. I spent more than $250,000 before I really found like I felt traction in my business, when at the end of the day, 4.5 years. At the end of the day, the thing that clicked for me, I had 3 things happen simultaneously. I got a great mentor and I read 2 books. I've already talked about them, Traction by Gino Wickman and Principles by Ray Dalio. And then I hired a mentor. And what that mentor did was say, get off your ass and pick up the phone, because this phone is going to make you more money than anything else in the whole entire world ever freaking could. So every day you're going to make 100 dials, and you're not allowed to go to sleep unless you've dialed 100 people. So I held myself accountable to that for 2 years. I made 100 dials every single day, regardless of how I felt. Millions of dollars was the result of that one silly rule. Make 100 dials.
That's a long conversation that we could have as well, but we don't have time for it now. Yeah. Keith, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been a wonderful pleasure.
Likewise. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, your audience is in the UK, so
well, it's US as well, and
all right. If you're in the US, you're free to send me a text message. My phone number is 530-736-6110, or you can find me on social media. My name is spelled weird. There's not anybody else who has the spelling of my name. My name is Keith Gillispie. Gillispie, if you're listening, is spelled Gillispie, and the best social media platform to find me is going to be on Facebook, or if you want to stalk my website, my website's www.reiautomated.io.
Excellent. Keith Gillispie, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is Marcus Cauchi signing off once again from the Inquisitor Podcast. If you found this useful and insightful, then please like, comment, share, subscribe, and do by all means get in touch with either Keith or myself if you've got any questions or want to open a dialogue. In the meantime, stay safe and happy selling. Bye-bye.